to review this chapter, it's going to be really important to understand the different conversions for each of the 6 different measurements that we're looking at. So first, let's look at the 3 customary units. Starting over here with distance, we have 1 inch equals 12 inches equals 1 foot, 36 inches equals 1 yard, and 63,360 inches equals 1 mile. Now, those are some things that might be difficult to calculate, but if you can remember this row, you can probably calculate all of the rest of them. And let's look at how. We know that there are 36 inches in 1 yard. And we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So if I take 36 divided by 12, I get 3 feet. So that means there are 3 feet in 1 yard. And if you look at our chart, that's right, we said 3 feet in 1 yard. If you take 63,360 and divide it by 12, you're going to get 5,280. And so that means that there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So yeah, this is a lot of things to memorize, but really if you can just do one and then practice doing the math, you'll be just fine. Let's look at capacity next. This was where we had our liquids, and we said that 8 fluid ounces were in 1 cup. There were 16 fluid ounces in 1 pint. And the reason we said 16 fluid ounces in 1 pint is because there are 2 cups in 1 pint. And so 8 times 2 equals 16. And if you notice, we could follow that trend around. There are 4 cups in 1 quart. So if we take the number of fluid ounces in a pint, 16, multiply it by 4, we get 64. So there are 64 fluid ounces in 1 quart. And there are 4 quarts in a gallon. And there are 128 fluid ounces in 1 gallon. So we take a look at all of these different conversions. The fluid ounces in a cup, fluid ounces in a pint, in a quart, in a gallon. And we can use that information to help us figure out the rest of it. But if you want to look, there are 2 cups in a pint, there are 2 pints in a quart, and there are 4 quarts in a gallon. So that's kind of like the main things to know. 8 fluid ounces in a cup, 2 cups in a pint, 2 quarts in a gallon, 2 pints in a quart, and 4 quarts in a gallon. So if you look at this row right here, if you can, this diagonal from here to here to here to there, if you can remember that, you can do any of the calculations. Same thing back in distance. If you can remember 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, and 1,760 yards in a mile, you can probably do all the calculations you need. Over here, now for weight, there's not much we're looking at weight. The hard thing is to remember the 16 ounces. Because remember, there are only 8 fluid ounces in a cup, but there are 16 ounces in a pound. The other thing is there are 2,000 pounds in a ton. So if we take 2,000 times 16, that's where we get there's 32,000 ounces in a ton. Now let's look at the metric system. The first one is this stair step. And remember, we drew it like a stair step because for every step we go, we're either going to multiply or divide by 10. So in distance, we're going to use all of these distances. We mostly will be talking about millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers, but you need to know all of the different steps. So from a meter, if I want to know how many decameters there are, I'm going to divide by 10 because I'm going up the stairs and it's only 1 step away. If I had kilometers and I want to know how many meters that was, I'm going to be going down this way and I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 10, by 10, and by 10. And so 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. So I would take my number of kilometers and multiply it by 1,000. The trick we talked about is either adding or taking away zeros. So if I'm going to be multiplying we know my number is going to get bigger, so I'm going to add more zeros. And I add a 0 for each step I go. If I'm dividing, my number is going to get smaller. I'm going to take away zeros. So I'm going to take away a 0 for every step I go. So if I'm going from millimeters to kilometers, that's going to be taking away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Let's go and look at capacity now. Now capacity, the steps are all still there. It's the same. Remember those prefixes? Kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, and milli? They don't change from here to here. But what changes is what we're concerned about. We really only talk about liters and milliliters. So it's still the same. For every step we go this way, we're going to divide by 10 or take away a 0. For every step going this way, we're going to multiply by 10 or add a 0. And we still stay the same from the weight. This time we're looking at 3. We're looking at kilograms, grams, and milligrams. So again, if we go this way, we're dividing by 10 or taking away zeros. If we come this way, we're multiplying by 10 or adding zeros. So from grams to kilograms, I would go and take away 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros. I would wipe 3 zeros off of my number. If I was going from grams to milligrams, I would add a 0, add a 0, add a 0. So I would add 3 zeros to it. And again, this is the chart. If you have any questions, you can always refer back to this chart. And remember, our test is going to be on Tuesday. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.